EXata will fundamentally affect how training is conducted. Let me give three contexts to illustrate the point. First, in terms of wargaming. The current generations of wargaming tools and systems assume that communication is not the constraint. So they assume what is sometimes called perfect communications, where a message sent from one entity to another is assumed to be received instantaneously and is 100% guaranteed. However, as you migrate to the net-centric environment, it is not going to be the case that messages are received instantaneously for sure, and most likely it is not the case that messages will be received 100% of the time. By injecting a realistic communication representation underneath the wargaming tools that people use will allow those wargame exercises to be conducted under much more realistic operating conditions. Not even that, but we could conduct them in urban versus rural versus mixed environments to give the warfighters a true experience of what operating with the communication assets that they are going to be using in those different environments is going to be like. The second context in which EXata would be very useful for training purposes is in the training of our signal officers. Wireless on-the-move communication systems inherently are adaptive. They are expected to adapt to operating conditions, and failures become sometimes transient, sometimes more permanent. But in the warfighter context, we may actually actively be losing communication assets, and failures of those must be addressed. By providing our signal officers a virtual context in which both quote-unquote natural failures due to mobility and interference between different types of traffics, as well as forced failures in terms of losing key communication assets can be exposed. And it's a signal officer's responsibility to react to that in a meaningful, timely manner. By providing EXata and deploying the networks in realistic context, we will provide our signal officers to experience and respond to these types of failures in a training context much before they would be faced with this in reality. And this could be a significant benefit of making them much more ready to operate and manage such type of networks in the field than otherwise possible. The last context in which EXata is likely to affect the training community is in how it might shape the TTNPs, the tactics, trainings, and procedures that are used by armed forces to conduct their operations. It has often been the case that the TTNPs are affected by technology. So how we conduct ourselves in a more natural way using self-forming on-the-move communication networks may be different from the TTNPs that we've used in the past. And the previous TTNPs may or may not be optimal with respect to the current communication technology. By exposing this technology in a virtual context to our warfighters, their commanders, and the support services that all rely on these communications, we will allow them to evaluate whether the TTNPs that are in place are in fact conducive to this technology, or evaluate alternative TTNPs with respect to their ultimate effectiveness and how we conduct our operations. By providing the virtual context and by providing lots of different contexts in which these operations can be evaluated, we will provide a manner and a quantifiable metrics by which to both revise and evaluate the effectiveness of these TTNPs.